in perhaps what could be the biggest outage ever, airlines, banks and businesses across the world were scrambling today to deal with one of the biggest IT crashes in recent years, caused by an update to an antivirus program by CrowdStrike. In fact, millions of Microsoft users across the globe tweeted about what they had experienced, that is the blue screen of death error, causing systems to crash and restart multiple times. In fact, in India, almost all air carriers, Vistara, Indigo, SpiceJet and Akasa Air, all of them faced technical issues that affected booking, check-ins and flight updates. In fact, globally as well, several flights were disrupted and grounded. London Stock Exchange, United States 9/11 emergency services and health services in Britain, reportedly all of them were impacted. Microsoft has now come out with an update and stated that all previously impacted applications and services have now been recovered, while monitoring is still on. Meanwhile, CrowdStrike, I beg your pardon, too clarified that this is not a cybersecurity breach. But the big question we are asking tonight is this an aberration or the new normal that we'll have to be living with? How serious are these outages, especially with respect to an interconnected world, and should be a reduced dependence on big tech? Let's take these questions across to our guest tonight, Dr. Pavan Duggal, who's a senior cybersecurity lawyer. Thank you very much, Mr. Duggal, for joining us. Now, Microsoft states that it happened all due to an update and a compatibility issue. But Mr. Duggal, an update leading to global outages is not really a small thing. It's unprecedented. Give us, how serious was this incident? What was the vulnerability involved for a lay person? And what kind of security challenges could it bring to countries?
First and foremost, we need to realize that a small technical software update can't lead to a global outage. And if it's happened, clearly, it's much more serious than what is currently being painted out. The bigger question right now is, are you allowing companies to come up with lame excuses and to allow them to skirt responsibility and accountability when you're dealing with such global outages which have resulted into losses which will run into billions of dollars? The fundamental question, who will pay for the losses for billions of dollars that have been incurred across the world? Now, can a company statement saying it was a technical glitch be sufficient? I don't think so. I also think that this particular outages was also had the effect of prejudicially impacting the sovereignty, security, and integrity of various countries, apart from prejudicially impacting the cyber sovereignty of different countries. Having said that, since a big chunk of this particular episode was creating a lot of fear and panic in the minds of people and the users at large, the elements of cyber terror attack cannot be ruled out. I think it's too early to celebrate and say everything is hunky-dory. Sorry, the investigations have yet to begin, and different national governments are likely to come up with national investigations in this regard. Number three, we have to realize that we have already now entered a new era. This is the new cyber world order that we've entered into. In this new cyber world order, two of our constant companions are going to be that cyber security breaches will be the new normal, and increasing cyber crimes will be our daily companions. I think in a scenario like this, we need to be prepared for these kinds of episodes to happen again and again.
So when you say, Mr. Duggal, that these cyber crimes are going to be our daily companions, I want to understand from you how cyber resilient are nations in the event of a cyber attack of this magnitude to safeguard their sovereignty?
Currently, cyber resilience is a good, attractive term to which lip service is being accorded to. We have not yet begun further our serious endeavors towards walking towards cyber resilience. And most of the people think that things will be fine because they can take the internet and the cyber ecosystem for granted, when you realize that on each passing day, in each passing hour, there are new challenges coming in. I think the time has come where countries must come up with dedicated national cyber resilience frameworks in order to stipulate the various rights, duties, and responsibilities of stakeholders in the event of scenarios like this. I also believe that the countries need to also make more accountability and responsibility for vendors and service providers who are providing such services, the negation of which could prejudicially impact not just computer systems, but also digital affairs across the world. Third, I think it's also time that far more awareness needs to be brought in amongst stakeholders. Today in India, people were clueless what was happening. And we were appearing to be just lame ducks in this face of this kind of an attack. I think the time has come where every stakeholder needs to be sensitized about the growing importance of cybersecurity and cyber resilience, and how people need to be encouraged to adopt cyber resilience and cybersecurity as a way of life as we move forward. Needless to say, countries still require national cybersecurity laws. India doesn't have a dedicated law on cybersecurity. At the international level, episodes like this is going to waken up the collective conscience of the Committee of Nations, and who should come together and come up with international legal frameworks and strategies and treaties so as to deal with scenarios like this at the international level. Why? Because internet has made geography history, and your national cybersecurity laws may not be adequate to deal with the ramifications of
Right.
global network outages like these ones.
Yes, Dr. Duggal, in fact, when you speak about having the need for a stringent cybersecurity law, India as of now has the IT law, and I think it's the cybersecurity protection or prevention is part of that law itself. But let me also get in your thoughts on how there is an added dimension of not just hackers trying to breach systems, but also state actors that are driven by geopolitics. So most of these attacks, like they were during the pandemic years, could be geopolitically motivated as well.
Absolutely. Please realize states are not particularly happy how other states are functioning. So there are going to be rogue nation state actors and non state actors who would want to go ahead and destabilize the digital economy at large. So all this kind of a huge outage means that you have to investigate deep. For all you know, this outage could have actually been as a result of some initiative that has originated from the dark net. In a scenario like this, are governments only going to take the stand of companies as gospel truths on their face value and do nothing? I don't think so. I think countries have quickly realized that if episodes like these keep on happening, the confidence of the people in the ability of the nations and their respective governments to deal with this kind of a scenario would potentially be eroded and compromised, which could have a much bigger long-term ramification for countries at large. And finally, in a global interconnected world where a company cannot afford to be down in terms of downtime for at least even 5 minutes. Here is a global outage that has lasted many hours. Even now, some things
Absolutely.
have been restored, but other things are under watch. So I think we need to take it very, very seriously. It's a special, rare occasion, but this should be a wake-up call for us to come out of our deep slumber and focus excessively and exclusively on cybersecurity and cyber resilience.
And Mr. Duggal, this could also wipe out millions of dollars, and that could have a greater impact on smaller companies, if not so, on larger companies. But let's get to the nub of the issue right now. Now, India is accelerating its digitization. We are also coming up with India AI mission. We also have a digital public infrastructure, fully digital, and more people are now being digitized. Hence, do you think the government is looking at this challenge of data storage and, most importantly, data localization?
Well, I think the government of India has been pretty alive to the need for protecting and preserving cybersecurity. However, this kind of outage tells us that you need to have a fresh look on this Indian nebulous position on data localization. It was thanks to the RBI that the financial data of Indians is safe because it mandated that financial data of Indians must be in India. But the recent Digital Personal Data Protection Act actually completely takes a U-turn and says the government is absolutely fine if you take the personal data of Indians outside India, provided you don't take it in a negative jurisdiction, which has been so stipulated by the government. I think the time has come where you have to realize it's not a normal India that we are dealing with. We are dealing with a case of a special India, an India which is now the most populous nation in the world, an India which is going to become one of the biggest e-commerce markets in the world. It's this particular country and its progress that's extensively being looked at by both state and non-state actors who are not necessarily very happy with how India is moving forward. And therefore, these kind of chances are going to keep on happening where the Indian march towards progress and economic stability is likely to be prejudicially impacted or even halted. So in a scenario like this, India needs to definitely look at data localization for data, at least sensitive personal data of Indians within India. Otherwise, if an outage like this happens and all our data is outside India, well, forget about any privacy, whether it's data privacy or personal privacy. You're now looking at bigger ramifications where this huge chunk of Indians whose data has been outside could potentially become very fertile victims of cyber crimes. It's scenarios like this that convinces us to say that, look, data localization is intrinsically connected with protection and preservation of the sovereignty, security, integrity of India, as also the preservation of Indian cyber sovereignty and cyber sovereign interests. But I think for that, the ball will have to come back to the government. It will be leaving up to the political will of the concerned parties as to how they want to take it forward. But clearly, Indians require far more protection, far more support vis-a-vis their data, lest this kind of global outrages goes and prejudicially impacts their data, as also their data privacy and personal privacy.
Definitely, Mr. Duggal, and which is why the government has stated that, I mean, not officially, but of course, conjecture is rife, that coming out with rules of the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill is going to be one of the priorities that the government is going to be looking at going forward after the budget. But, sir, let me also ask you one more question as far as this entire incident is concerned. Perhaps there is a need for India to reduce dependence on big tech companies. I know that we are the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. We've also been giving a push to entrepreneurship in several other areas. But in this space of data localization and cloud security and cloud development, perhaps India needs to do more so far as reducing its dependence on big techs is concerned.
And that's the reason why indigenous development is of crucial importance. That's the reason why the Atmanirbhar Bharat program is specifically designed by the government, so to make India self-reliant, so that we are not dependent on these kinds of technical and other services. Well, very quickly, we'll have to start realizing that the attacks, cyber attacks on India are going to substantially increase, because the world and various stakeholders are not necessarily very happy with the way economic advancement and progress is taking place in India. And this particular progress is going to be posing India in a direction where India is likely to become an IT superpower. That's something that a number of states may not necessarily want to happen. Therefore, disruptions are likely to be the norm of the day. These kind of incidents, generally targeted to the global community and even specifically targeted to India, cannot be ruled out. We need to be more prepared. My problem is, today, if an episode like this has happened, virtually almost all stakeholders were clueless as to what they were supposed to be doing in the event of such an activity. I think the time has come where the government needs to stipulate the rights, duties, and responsibilities of various stakeholders, so that in the event this kind of episodes or cyber attacks take place, I think they should have the distinctive SOPs in place as to what stakeholders should be doing in scenarios like this, so that we can fight the menace of cybersecurity breaches and also cyber terrorism and cyber crime, which is facing us right in our face.
Right. Dr. Duggal, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and your perspectives on this disruption that was caused today. Like you say, disruption will be the norm, but India as a country really needs to up its guards and come out with a stringent and strong cybersecurity law to, of course, deal with these breaches. On that note, thank you very much, Dr. Duggal, for joining us on India Tonight.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.